We begin with breaking news. An American journalist who is being held in Syria has been freed. Peter Theo Curtis disappeared in Turkey en route to Syria in 2012. For more on this now, we're going to go to our correspondent Nathan King, who's live in our newsroom. Nathan.
That's right, Susan. The White House has just confirmed that Peter Theo Curtis has been released into the hands of a United Nations representative and then to them. Curtis, pictured here, believed to be held by the Al-Nusra Front, an Islamic organization that was until a few months ago indistinguishable from Islamic State, who, remember, last week released a video showing one of their members executing US journalist Jim Foley, who'd also been held in Syria for around 2 years. Now, Curtis was held with another journalist, Matthew Schreier, who actually escaped from captivity. Curtis could not escape because apparently the window they planned to climb out through was too narrow for Curtis. It's not immediately clear what led to the release of Theo Curtis, but multiple reports point to a diplomatic intervention by the Gulf state of Qatar. Now, they have influence over various Sunni Islamic groups across the Middle East. And as we know, the freeing of this journalist follows the execution of Jim Foley by Islamic State. And it's worth reminding everyone that Islamic State in Syria and Iraq is thought to be holding another 3 Americans as threatened to kill them. We have 2 statements to read to you on this breaking news. The first one I want to read to you from the United Nations, who have confirmed that the United Nations facilitated the handover of Peter Theo Curtis. He was handed over, this is from United Nations statements, to UN peacekeepers in the Al Rafid village in the Golan Heights at 6:40 p.m. Local time after receiving a medical checkup, and Mr. Curtis was handed over to a representative of the US government. Now we have a statement from Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor over at the White House, who says, today the American people share in the joy and relief that Theo's family feels, and we look forward to his safe return home. We will continue to work tirelessly on behalf of all Americans who are held overseas so they can be reunited with their families as well. So good news for one US journalist who's been held against his will in Syria for nearly 2 years. But of course, we still have to remember Jim Foley, who was not so lucky.
Susan? That's right, Nathan. And of course, we're all so relieved that Peter Theo Curtis has been released. But the obvious question, why was Jim Foley not released?
Well, you know, different organizations, the Nusra Front, Islamic organization, not Islamic State. But as I said at the outset, they were, until very recently, all part of Al-Qaeda. Nusra Front still basically pledges allegiance to Al-Qaeda. So that might be one reason, that they are not as militant as Islamic State. But also, as you know, there has been a big discussion here in Washington that is ongoing about whether the US, considering what Islamic State has done to Jim Foley and is doing across northern Iraq, whether they should intervene in Syria. Now, it would not be in the Nusra's front necessarily for the US to intervene in Syria. So maybe releasing one US citizen is a way of trying to stem that from happening. We'll have to wait and see. But it's good news for the family of Peter Theo Curtis, and that's what we're concentrating this hour.
Absolutely, Nathan King with the breaking news in our newsroom.